Hello, this is Diane Dalton. I'm going to show you some examples of some of the exercises that you've been assigned in Chapter 2. These are the ones where people had a lot of trouble. I just noticed a lot of people made the same mistakes on some of these. So I'm going to start with Premier, exercise number 9. I'm going to start and create a new query. I'm going to put it in the design editor. And this one requires the user to find the total of the balances for all customers represented by sales rep 35. And so all of the information I'm going to need, I know is in the customer table because I'm familiar with the tables now. Close that. And as you can see, I do have the rep number is down here, and I'm looking at the balance. All right, so those are the only things I'm looking for. And what I want to do here, I'm not just going to use the balance, I want to sum the balance. All right, so by putting in the sum, right away SQL Server put in this group by and says, well, you must be wanting to group by the other number. So it did that for me. But I also want to filter. And see, my filter column is a little farther over here. So I want to filter by rep 35. Right, and that's my query. It's a fairly simple one. You can see what the text of it looks like. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to execute. And that's what the result should be. The next exercise I'm going to do is Premier number 12, still in Chapter 2. It says list the columns and all records in the part table and sort the results by part number within item class. So first of all, let's start our editor. We're going to add the part table. It's the only one we need. Make this a little smaller. And we could, because it says to list everything, we could use the all columns, but because we're going to use some of our column names for sorting, I'm going to click on each one of these. Okay, and then we need to sort. And the wording of this is a little bit misleading, but it says sort the results by part number within item class. So what that really means is that item class is the one that we want to have as the first sort key, and part number would be the secondary sort key. So we need to list class is the sort order, the first sort, and then after that we're going to sort on part number. So we put those in, 1 and 2. We say OK, and I'll execute. And what you can see is how we've sorted by class first. So AP, those are the appliance, and within that then we are sorting by part number. Okay, and then we have hardware or housewares, and then sorted by part number. And then sporting goods and sorted by part number. So that's the difference. Now let me show you if we had sorted it the other way around. I'm just going to do this in the SQL query, and I'm going to do part number, comma, class. The order of the output will be a little bit different. Okay, now I'm sorting by part number, which we don't have any duplicate part numbers, so those are just sorted alphabetically. And then we're sorting by class, which really appears kind of randomly. So that's the difference in picking the sort order. The next exercise I'm going to demonstrate for you is in Henry Books. It's problem number 8. List the title of each book written by Dick Francis. All right, so we're going to start our editor. And okay, now this is the thing where it's a little bit picky about the order that you pick your tables in, and we hadn't discussed this yet, so this is kind of took you by surprise. But let's look. I'm going to pick the author, I'm going to need the book, and I'm going to need the wrote table because that's what connects authors and books. And I'll close. So those are the 3 tables that I need. Now I'm going to pull these apart. Now the problem is in the sequence that I selected my tables, it didn't connect book, it didn't establish the relationship for book to these others because the author table didn't have a reference to the book, so it didn't put one in there. But what I need to do is actually create that reference. So I'm going to click on the word book code and hold my mouse down, and I'm going to drag over here to book code there to establish that connection. So I could put these things in a different order and the lines all line up neatly. Let's put wrote over there. So if I had in fact selected these tables in this sequence, author, wrote, book, then these connections would have been established, or these relationships would have been established as I selected the tables. But if those relationships aren't established and you know that a particular field in one refers to a field in another, you can establish that relationship yourself. And that's where some people had problems. So once we have the tables and the relationships, then it's a matter of just finding the books. So we want the title, and so that's going to be in the book, and we're going to look for authors. So we're going to look by author first name and last name. Okay, and so our filter is Francis for the last name and Dick for the first name. And so we'll say OK. And when I execute that, I get 3 books that were written by Dick Francis. Now another way to look at this, and this is kind of jumping ahead to chapter 3, but you see the code, the SQL code that we're writing. If you don't have all the connections between the tables, what you get is, instead of an inner join, you get a cross join. And that kind of gives you every possible combination of everything in that sort of disconnected table with what you're searching for. That's why you might come up with a results of 600 different books by Dick Francis, which he did not write 600, he wrote 3 of them. All right, so I know that was a little confusing, and I wanted to show you how that works. Hello, the next exercise I'm going to do for you is Henry Books number 16. It's create a new table. This is going to be similar to the Premier exercise number 14, which also creates a new table. And there's also an exercise in Alex Mara number 18, which creates a new table. So in general, I'm going to show you how to write a query that creates a new table. So we're going to start again. I have a blank query. Go to my query editor. And I need to add my tables. So let's read the instructions. Create a new table named Fiction Copies using the data in the book code, title, branch num, copy num, quality, and price columns for those books that have the type FIC, which stands for fiction. All right, so which tables am I going to need for this? I'm going to clearly need the book. I'm going to need the copy. And it says branch num, so I'm going to put branch. Okay, I think that should be enough. Let me put my query a little smaller. All right, so I think I've got all the tables that I need. So let me put in book code, title, branch number, copy num, quality, and the price also. All right, so those are all the fields that were requested. Now I'm looking at this, and I have branch table in here, and I have it joined, so I have the relationship established. But I'm not actually picking any fields from here. So I might as well, because I don't need it and it's just redundant, could just cause problems. I'm going to take this out of my query because I can get branch num from this. So I'm going to remove this table from my query. I did a right click and remove. Right, so everything I need I can get from these. All right, so my criteria though is that I need to pick only the books that have type fiction. So I'm going to have to put type in here. And apply the filter. So I'm going to put in my filter, FIC, for fiction. Now, I don't want type to be one of my output columns, so I'm going to uncheck this so it will not be in the output, right? But it is used as my criteria. That's what this field is. It's often small enough that you can't see it, but that says output. Right, so this is my query. Now really so far I've just selected what fields in the criteria, but how do I make it create a new table? I'm going to go into this open space. I'm going to right click, change type, and this is the type of query we're writing. Most of the time we've been writing selects. That's pulling data, reading data from your database. What we're going to do this time is use a make table. Now some of the other types of queries you're going to be asked to write are updates or deletes, maybe an insert values. Okay, but this time we're going to do a make table, and it asks you to type in the table name. So this is in the instructions. It's called fiction copies. Say OK, and now you can see this is my query. It looks similar. I've got the select, which fields I'm looking at, but the key thing here for making tables is that when I select it, I'm putting it into a new table with the name fiction copies. All right, the rest of that is familiar. I'm going to say OK. Here, let me open Henry Books, expand this right now. So you can see the tables that I have. I do not have one called fiction copies, but as soon as I run this query, I'm going to execute. It says it found 47 rows, and I should have a new table over here. Let me hit refresh. And there's my fiction copies. And I'm going to bet that it has 47 rows. So when I open it and look at my top 1,000, I do get 47 rows. Okay, so those are all of the fiction books. And that actually created a new table in my database from a query pulling data from a different table.